St. Peter is gathering data to cement their 20-year development plan. Aaron Stuvey has more about what the city learned from a public survey and what their priorities are moving ahead.
2026 has been a year of change for the city of St. Peter. Work is finishing on the new city hall, and departments are gradually moving in. But the city plans to keep changing, as they're making changes to their 2050 plan, which directs the city's priorities for decades to come. The first step was a public survey, which produced concerns about things like housing affordability, pedestrian traffic on busy roads like 169, and the lack of a hardware store following the closure of Arrow Hardware early last year. And some results were very clear.
We also had a question about data centers. There was definitely people that were very concerned with bringing in a data center. We aren't really going to be moving forward with anything like that anytime soon.
From here, the findings will go to a committee who will integrate changes to the existing development plan, and only after that will initiatives be put forward as policy. But the conversation doesn't end with the survey. The city wants to hear from residents wherever they are, at community events, at public meetings, or through more online feedback.
It's probably the most important step, and we want to hear from our community. They're very important to us, and we just really want to know what they're thinking about different subjects and how they want us to grow.
In St. Peter, Aaron Stuvey, KUIC News Now.